Hello everybody, back at you with another video. It's day 55. We're 2 weeks away from the deadline for our home that my wife and I set. What's going through my mind right now, it's thinking, just focusing on the small things right now. I'm not really feeling anxious or anything like that. I'm speaking, you know, uh, making sure I'm speaking the right things. Like my wife and I have the house now. You know what I mean? Faith is now. It's not in the future. It is present tense, and so you want to make sure your words are in the right tense. You know, I was cleaning up my basement this morning and just making sure everything's in order. You know, um, there's something that I call reflective faith, that we are to demonstrate what's going on the inside on the outside. So if God is cleaning us up on the inside, and we're just working alongside Him, cleaning ourselves out, we are to demonstrate that somehow, some way, through our natural bodies. Because our natural world should are our reflections of our spiritual world, a combination of our spirit and mental worlds. Because it's not enough for you to be a son of God, but that has to be pondered upon. It has to be thought about, in our minds. Because so as a man thinketh, so is he. So, the spirit opens up the possibilities, for you, but it is important that we take it with our thoughts and with our actions. So my focus right now, just focusing on the small things. Making sure that I'm disciplined, just even in the small things. Make sure I'm consistent, even in the small things. And I know that with me being consistent and on the small things and diligent, that can grow into bigger things. And then also, because this is the thing, you want to make sure that you keep a sense of discipline on the foundation of what you're doing. Because I know sometimes we can get a thought process, well, if I can just be more disciplined in a higher level, but other times we sacrifice the smaller things for the greater things, and that's not something we should be doing, because that could derail your destiny just because you stop doing the small things. Faith is supposed to be compounded. You're not supposed to just exchange one thing for another, or you're not growing. Growth is about compound um compounded uh uh measurements of being greater tomorrow than today, in some areas. So when a child grows from, let's say, 12 to 19, he doesn't throw away his growth from 2 to 11. No, you have to build upon that growth. That's important. As we're growing is about balancing even more. And you have to balance what you've already done and continue to stay diligent in that, and balance that now with more in terms of what has been able to grow in your life. So, growth is about balancing more. It's about managing more, not sacrificing the small things for the big things. Because many times, sacrificing small things for big things is like sacrificing your foundation. And if you snatch your foundation away, then you have nothing to build upon. So that's important. And that's what the book was talking about today, and the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It's the law of process. Being remaining diligent in the process, understanding there's different stages to the process. Where you go from there was four stages he mentioned. I'm gonna mention two of them, but there's a stage where you don't know what you don't know. Then you move to a stage where you do know what you don't know. Because that's what growth is. And the process is. The process is to journey in such a way where now you're beginning to understand and know what you need to know, so then you can start moving in that direction. And many times you're not going to know that unless you're demonstrating leadership on some sort of level. That's what's important too, because demonstrating the leadership is like putting what you know and your knowledge into action. And that's what's going to show you how grounded you are and what you've been taught, and then the things that you missed out on that you were taught, but somehow some way it didn't stick with you. I know the young man that's working with me now, we're doing a lot of things on Microsoft Excel, and one of the things he said was, I have learned more with you in the last 2 weeks than I've learned when it comes to Excel. I've learned more in the last 2 weeks than I learned in 4 years of college. Because one disservice that college do sometimes, and I know that's why colleges encourages internships, because at a certain point you don't want to just build knowledge, and you don't get an opportunity to demonstrate it in a real life situation. Because the real life situation is like the weight room. You know, you can talk about how strong you are, and you can visualize and study how you should lift the weights, but eventually you got to start lifting weights, and you know that's gonna the best way to uh, to uh, to see what you don't know is to put what you already know into action, and then see the limitations of what you uh, thought you knew, and then seeing the gap between where you should be and where you are. You know, and sometimes as people we don't like uh, listening to others when they try and tell us. So that's why sometimes we have to, you know, be pushed out and to do things so that we can see for ourselves. So, that's what, the law of process in the book is talking about. Just is really talking about, just remaining patient, remaining in a constant state of learning, because at times we get a sense that if I just read a certain amount of books, I won't have to read any more books, and you'd be surprised how many people subconsciously believe that. And I'm at a point where I know everything I need to know, and now it's just about me demonstrating it instead of staying in a vulnerability of there's so much more I don't know. Let me uh, let me get to a point where I'm comfortable with being vulnerable, comfortable with learning something new, because some many times our accomplishments and in our in our knowledge at times causes us to inadvertently think that we're greater than what we're really, who we really are, you know. So, yeah, so that's the process. You got to trust the process. Got to trust the process, because when you trust the process, you know that what what your goal is, or whatever you're believing for, is going to eventually come to pass, because you know the process. So, I'm about to get out of here. But yeah, day 55, everything's going well, and I'm content in my situation, and just believing, look, the house, I already have it. There's not a sense I'm going to get it. The house, I already have it. And now, uh, as we're in the last 2 weeks, I'm focusing on what's on the inside. So that what's what I'm focusing on in the inside, God says in His Word that the things that are done in the dark, I bring to the light. So that's God's. This is God's battle. And my job is just to believe. My job isn't to make it happen. That's part of the process, knowing your part of the process and then knowing God's part of the process. So, yeah, so, just continue to believe and continue to keep the faith, and be content wherever you are in the process, you know, uh, and that may be one of the things you may need to work on, just being content in the stage of the process that you're in, because that takes faith, that takes patience, just to stay content. I think that's probably one of the first things you should do. It's probably at least work on being content. And then once you're content, you're at a state of rest. I'm at a state of rest. I'm not trying to make something happen, but I'm in a place where I know it's coming. Now it's just a matter of time, and I'm content with the time it's going to take. I'm content with the process playing out so that, I can get what I'm believing for. That's very important. So, because without it, you're just going to become anxious. And, you know, it's hard to be in faith when you're anxious. Very hard. Very, very hard. You limit faith with your anxiety and being anxious, thinking that, because many times you're anxious because you're still thinking that you have to make it happen. You know, I know God has done His thing. If someone's asking, okay, so how do you know what part you have to play and then what part God have to play? The part that you're going to be playing is going to be a part where you're more so working on yourself, working on the inside of yourself. That's your job, is to work on the inside of yourself, is to work whatever God has told you, whatever promise that you're believing to receive, is to work that so deep inside you and then have that come alive through your actions, making sure your mouth is lining up with what you're believing. Make sure your actions are lining up with where you're going, and once that word of God gets so deep in your heart that you believe it without doubting, no matter what you see, that then it's time for God to make it come to pass. Because I'm thinking, I'm being honest, I just looked at the house, and the house my wife and I are believing for. There's all kind of cost I was looking at. I was like, and then that's when my mind. See, sometimes what we try to do is try and kick in to our flesh to see what our flesh can do about it, or how our flesh can make it happen. You know what I mean? Because my spirit looks at the costs and thinking, you know, how's that gonna happen? But that's the point where you have to be sensitive, and that's why being in worship is important. Being in your prayer time, you got to get sensitive to know what's your job and then what's not your job. Because after I got done looking at it, I said, you know what? That's not my job. I literally told myself that. I said, that is not my job. My job is to believe and do everything that I know I can do. Okay? And then just trust God to do the rest. The Bible says put your trust in Him. So I'm working on me. God is working on the situation based on how I work on me. So that's how that's how you can help separate it. Your job is to work on you. God's job is to work on the situation through what you're doing on the inside of you. So, that's it. I'm about to get out of here, go to work. It's a beautiful Friday, beautiful day. My wife and I have a new home. I thank God for it. Thank God for it. Thank God for having a place to come to work and having a place where I enjoy. And start sometimes get to the point where you just got to start thanking God for what you already have and what you already see, um, and focusing on that. Uh, to encourage you to for God to do more in your life. So, about to get out of here. You all have a great day.